My name is Biona, and if I ever had any doubts about my place in the family business, they were settled the day I discovered the loan agreement. It wasn't some grand family meeting where they mapped out future plans. No, I learned the truth by sheer accident. It happened last week at the shop. The same shop I'd invested my own money into for 3 years. Inventory, marketing, payroll. I was the one keeping it all afloat while my brother Liam did absolutely nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean he'd stroll in, sip a free coffee, and tell me the new book display looked good. That afternoon, I was in the back office sorting through a towering stack of invoices my dad had allowed to pile up. He'd asked me to organize them for the accountant, a job neither he nor my mother ever cared to handle. I was just getting into a steady rhythm when I noticed it. A thick, professional-looking folder hidden beneath a pile of old catalogs. It was labeled Business Succession and Capital Loan. My heart began pounding a little faster. I don't like snooping, but my own savings were tied up in that place. I had a right to understand its future. So I opened it, and that's when the ground dropped out from beneath me. It was a business loan application for $200,000, but the money wasn't for renovations or expansion. The documents clearly stated the funds were for my brother, Liam, to buy the business from my parents with a 5-year plan listing him as the sole proprietor. There was no mention of me, not a single line. My name wasn't on the loan, not in the succession plan, not even as a manager. I was simply erased. I felt like a fool. Here I was working 60-hour weeks, sacrificing my own vacations, and using my personal credit to keep the lights on, all while they were behind my back orchestrating a future where I was cut out of my own life's work. And Liam, he had never worked a genuine shift in his life. He treated the shop like his private clubhouse, a spot to hang around. Yet, in their eyes, he was the one who deserved everything. He was the golden child destined to inherit the legacy I was exhausting myself to build. I sat there staring at the papers, my hands trembling with a mix of pure fury and deep betrayal. How long had this been their scheme? Was I always just the temporary fix? The financial bridge to carry them to the point where they could pass everything to him? I must have been sitting there in shocked silence for a while because my dad eventually stuck his head into the office. "Hey, Bree, how's that paperwork coming along?" he asked, completely unaware. I didn't conceal the folder. I held it up, my voice dangerously calm. "What is this?" His expression shifted from cheerful to pale in an instant. He stammered for a second before letting out a sigh. That condescending sigh he used when I was a teenager. "Biona, it's not what it looks like." "Really?" I shot back, my voice breaking. "Because it looks like you're using the business I rescued to hand it over to Liam. While I get nothing." My dad shifted his stance, unable to meet my eyes. "It's complicated." That was his answer. Not an apology, not an explanation, just two hollow words meant to silence me, and that's when I called for my mom. When she walked in and saw the folder in my hand, she at least had the decency to look embarrassed. But the words that came out of her mouth were 1,000 times worse. She placed a hand on my arm, her voice syrupy sweet. "Honey, you don't need this. You're so capable. You have a great career. You can do anything. Liam, well, he needs this. It's his only real shot. We just want to make sure he's taken care of." That was it. The moment something inside me cracked. They weren't naive. They were strategic in their minds. My competence was my punishment, and his incompetence was his reward. They were deliberately choosing to sacrifice me for him, and they thought calling me capable was a compliment that would make the betrayal hurt less. I took a slow, shaky breath and set the loan papers neatly on the desk. "Got it," I said, my voice eerily steady. "Glad we're all clear on where I stand." Then I grabbed my purse, walked out of the office, and left the shop without a single backward glance. Ignoring their voices calling my name, they had made their choice. Now it was time to make mine. I went straight home and got to work. For the past year, I'd been paying our key suppliers from my own business account because my parents' finances were a disaster. I'd also been covering payroll gaps from my savings. It was supposed to be a short-term loan to the business. My first move was to cut off all access. I changed the passwords to the online ordering portals I controlled. I sent a polite but firm email to our 3 primary distributors, informing them that effective immediately, I would no longer be financially responsible for any orders placed by the shop. Then I transferred the last $5,000 I had lent the business for payroll back into my personal savings account. The silence from them was deafening for about 72 hours. I think they assumed I was just having a tantrum and would return once I cooled down. They were wrong. The first text came on Tuesday morning. It was from my dad. Dad texted the invoice for the coffee bean shipment is due today. That was it. No, how are you? No, we need to talk. Just a cold, blunt demand, as if nothing had shifted, as if I were still their chief financial officer and personal ATM. I stared at the message, a bitter laugh slipping from my lips. They truly believed they could simply will me back into my old role. I typed a simple reply. I'm sure the new owner, Liam, can handle it. 5 minutes later, my mom called. I ignored it. A text followed. Mom texted Brianna, please don't be like this. Your father is worried sick. We need to talk about this as a family. Oh, now they wanted to talk. Now that a bill was due and their safety net had disappeared, I waited a full hour before responding. There's nothing to discuss. You made your succession plan clear. You can live with it. I thought that would be the end of it for the day, but I had forgotten about the golden child himself. Liam's text arrived late that night, dripping with the kind of clueless entitlement only he could manage. Liam texted, "Hey, what's going on?" Mom said, "You're freaking out about some paperwork. Just pay the coffee guy like you always do. You're turning this into a way bigger deal than it needs to be." I almost hurled my phone. Not a big deal. Being erased from my own future was just me being dramatic. I typed back, my fingers flying. No, I think you've got this handled since you're the chosen one and all. His reply came almost immediately. Liam texted, "Oh my God, are you seriously this angry about the loan thing? Grow up. It's a business, not your whole life." The hypocrisy was breathtaking. It was just a business now that it was being handed to him. Then you won't mind using your own money to finance it, right? I shot back. Radio silence. The next day, things escalated from awkward to professionally humiliating. I was at my actual day job, the one that funded their business's survival, when I got a call from a number I knew well. It was David, the regional manager for our biggest book distributor. We'd worked together for years. He was a decent guy. "Hey, Brianna," he said, his tone friendly but puzzled. "Quick question. I just got a notification that the payment for the fall catalog order was declined. Is everything okay over there?" The invoice was for around $9,000. My stomach tightened into a knot. They had attempted to run the payment through the account I had just shut down. They were so accustomed to me covering everything, they didn't even bother checking. I had to draw a deep breath to keep my voice steady. "Hi, David. Actually, I'm no longer managing the shop's finances. You'll need to speak with my father or Liam about that." There was a long silence on the other end. "Oh," he said, that single word heavy with questions I couldn't answer. "Okay. Well, let them know we can't ship the holiday inventory until this is resolved." I hung up, feeling a burning wave of embarrassment. He didn't say it, but I knew what he was thinking. My family was unreliable, and my name was attached to their chaos. That, however, was nothing compared to what happened next. 2 days later, I received a fraud alert notification from my credit card company. It was an automated text asking if I had just attempted to make an online payment of $24,000 to a commercial lender. My blood turned to ice. I immediately called the credit card company. The agent confirmed that someone had tried to use my card to make a down payment on a commercial loan. They had my name, my card number, my address, everything. There was only one way they could have gotten that information: my mother. I had given it to her months earlier to put a deposit on a new espresso machine, and she must have saved it. They didn't just try to guilt trip me. They didn't just try to professionally humiliate me. They tried to steal from me. They tried to use my credit to fund the very loan that was meant to erase me. This wasn't a family disagreement anymore. This was a crime, fraud, identity theft. The betrayal was so deep, it felt like I couldn't breathe. But as the shock faded, it was replaced by something else. Ice-cold clarity. They had just handed me all the leverage. I didn't call the police. I called my dad. "Family meeting," I said, my voice stripped of all emotion. "At the shop in 1 hour, and you will make sure Liam is there." I hung up before he could reply. When I walked into the shop, it felt different. It was dimly lit, and a thin layer of dust was already settling over the displays. They were all there. Mom, Dad, and Liam clustered behind the counter like a tribunal of fools. My mother started immediately. "Brionna, thank God. We were so worried. Things are a mess." I lifted a hand, cutting her off. I walked to the counter and set my phone down, showing them the fraud alert. Then I slid a printed copy of the credit card statement across the wood. They all stared at it. My dad's face went blank. My mom's hand flew to her mouth. Liam just looked confused. "Can someone explain this to me?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. My dad began stammering. "It was a mistake, a mix-up. We were desperate. The bank was calling." "You tried to steal $24,000 from me," I said, not as a question, but as a fact. "You committed a felony using my name to secure a loan for him." I pointed a finger at Liam, who finally seemed to grasp the seriousness of the situation and shrank back. My mother burst into tears. "We didn't know what else to do. We were going to pay you back with..." "With what?" I shot back. "The profits from the business I built that you were handing to your son who has never worked a day in his life?" Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. I let them sit in it for a full minute. Then I leaned forward, my voice low and steady. "Here's what happens now. You have two options." I paused, making sure I had their complete, terrified attention. "Option 1. I walk out of this store. I call the police and I file a report for identity theft and wire fraud. I will press charges. The bank will be notified. Mom, you will likely go to jail. Dad, you might be charged as an accessory. The business will go into immediate bankruptcy and the bank will seize everything. You will lose it all." My mother was openly sobbing now. My dad looked like he might throw up. "Option 2, I continued, my voice like steel. "You get a lawyer. You sign over 100% of the business, the name, the inventory, and all assets to me. In return, I will give you the grand total of $1. I will not press charges, and you will walk away. You will have no stake, no salary, and you will never work here again. You have 24 hours to decide." I stood up straight, looking down at the three people who had once been my entire world. They weren't my family anymore. They were a liability. My father looked at my mother, then at his useless son, and finally at me. His eyes filled with a mixture of resentment and defeat. He knew he was cornered. He nodded slowly. "We'll sign." It's been 6 months since that day. I rebranded the shop, and it's finally making a real profit. I work hard, but it's a fulfilling kind of work now because it's mine. Every victory belongs to me. I haven't spoken to my parents or Liam since the papers were signed. I hear through the grapevine that they had to sell their house and move into a small apartment. Liam apparently has a job now, stocking shelves at a grocery store. A small part of me feels a sting of sadness for the family I thought I had, but it's quickly replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace. They didn't just lose a business, they lost a daughter who would have done anything for them. I was their greatest asset, and they discarded me. But in doing so, they gave me the greatest gift I could have ever received: my freedom. I finally chose myself, and I'm not apologizing for it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have any of you ever had to make a difficult choice to save yourself from a toxic family situation?